What's going on, everybody? Your big brother Chazz and your big brother Jahi. How you feeling today, bruh?
Oh, I'm doing well, man. I'm waiting to talk to you about part two of what they didn't teach us enough about. We really had a good conversation last week. But before we get started, I always want to preface this broadcast by saying it can be seen every Wednesday at 6 o'clock Central Standard Time, 7 o'clock if you're on the East Coast of the Midwest. And we really appreciate those who tune into our broadcast because they really don't have to do it. They could be
Yep,
doing something else, but
yep.
sometimes it's okay for podcasters to just tell people how much we appreciate them. And I just want to start off by saying we truly appreciate all those who tune in weekly to watch this broadcast or whenever they can, and to bring their insights to it because this is a deep discussion, Chaz.
And let me ask you this. This is our second week of doing this. Why do you think that this is an important topic that we have to keep touching up every week? Why do you think it's important?
Because there's a lot of things that we didn't get taught, whether it was by our parents, whether it was our family, whether it was the educational system, whether it was our friends, and even life. There's a lot of things that they didn't teach us enough about. Now, we're not saying they didn't teach us. We're
Okay.
saying that they didn't teach us enough. And so
Okay.
that's why we're going to coin this. It's they didn't teach us enough about, and then we'll get into those different factors as we put them on the screen. But I think we can always talk about what we need to do a better job of because we didn't know, Chaz. A lot of us, we just, think about your education. Even as you take it a day at a time, there's so many things that you learn and where you probably say, wow, I didn't know enough about this because no
Yeah.
one taught us.
And I'm gonna say this real quick before we get started. Now, when we talk about some of these issues, now on my notes here, I have some, not all, some parents didn't do a good job at teaching these things. And when I talk about those parents, that's not to knock at them. That's not to take jabs at them. I'm saying that those parents probably didn't know because I don't want parents to sit back and say, "Oh, why is he talking down to us?" No, I'm saying they innocently didn't know, but now we're just shedding light on that. Go ahead and get started here. Number 12 says how to start and operate a business. Now, on this one, I put the education or the school system didn't teach us this because, for number one, they wanted us to always be buying, basically getting information from them. And then, second of all, some of our friends, I don't think the friends that we grew up with, I don't think that they thought this was important. Basically, they thought that it was just about spending, being a consumer, not really owning the business, but basically just learning how to spend.
Yeah, that's well said because the key word here is operate. We not only have to want to start a business, but we have to know how to operate it. In other words, we got to be able to make this business last.
Right.
And a lot of times when we talk about starting businesses, I know financially a lot of us are not set for that. But that was something that we didn't even get taught about. That's what we're saying. No one told us enough about starting a business, operating a business, running a business so that we could be self-sufficient and so that we can hire people that look like us instead of always complaining about we're the last, what they say, we're the first hired or the last fired or however it goes, but
Yeah.
or the first fired and the last hired. We some of this stuff, Chaz, we just weren't taught a lot about because it's a strategy to learn how to operate a business and to run that business. But again, unfortunately, a lot of us we don't. That's something we're not interested in because we weren't taught about it enough.
Let me go ahead before I go to the next point. We got a couple comments that came in. Let's go ahead and address the people who came in. Sister Marie, she fires in here. She says, Hotep Kings, we appreciate her. Sister Mashonda, she fires in here. She says, hello, we appreciate her. Sister Barbara fires in here. She says, Hotep Kings with emoji, we appreciate her. We thank all the viewers as always. Like we said, they could be doing anything, but they chose to rock with us today. Number 13 says home ownership. Now put in parentheses, some parents did not know this or they didn't teach us this because there was a lack of intergenerational wealth because some parents could not pass down property equity or financial inheritance because we lacked the capital. Basically, in a nutshell, those families didn't have the proper funds. Living paycheck to paycheck, not having a good enough education. Sometimes when you don't have those things, you don't see the importance of home ownership. So that's not a knock. I want to clear myself. That's not a knock at them for not teaching us. They innocently didn't know these things, but now we're bringing it to light. So we hope that these people grasp on now.
Yeah, and I want to say before I get going that somebody might say, well, this is not the place or the time for this, but it is because it's our broadcast and we can say what we want to say. But Mashonda, you just saw her come on and she's greeted us. But, she sent my wife and I a nice package, and it wasn't anything that was illegal. It was no dope. It was nothing like that, no alcohol. But it was a present. It was a just because present, and that really made my heart big right now. So I'm just filled with joy, and I told her thank you, but I just want to say to her we really love her and we thank her for looking out for us, because you sometimes the kindness of people's heart, man, it goes a long way, Chaz. And a lot
Yeah,
of us are so selfish, but
yeah,
she surprised us and sent us that, and man, I'm telling you right now, that was a beautiful thing she did, and I just wanted to say I appreciate it. Now back to the home ownership. A lot of times, Chaz, we weren't taught enough about it. In other words, when people grow up, that when we were kids, people would always ask us, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" And we would always talk about what we wanted to be. We had aspirations, but a lot of times they didn't say, "When you grow up, you need to own a home." See, now some did, but a lot of them didn't, because, like you mentioned, they didn't have home ownership. But if that would have been embedded in us more, I think that would have been a goal that we looked for. We would have tried to reach for it, but we don't see the importance of it because, once again, they didn't teach us enough about it, you see. And
hmm
sometimes you got to create that interest in a person. And I do that with my students a lot. I create an interest and we keep talking about it. And before you know it, they're pursuing that interest, as opposed to me never saying anything. And then when they don't get it, it's like I complain about it. But we definitely have to talk more about these kids as they grow up. When you grow up, you need to own your home, because that's wealth, as we talked about earlier last week.
Now, let me ask you a question. Now, in this economy, we all see on the news, YouTube, all these avenues about how these homes, a lot of them, a basic home, these prices are out of the roof. So, do you think that some people that don't have enough funds, do you think that they don't care about home ownership because they look at it, well, the economy is high, I can't afford it, so it means nothing? Do you think they look at it that way?
Yeah, I think you're spot on, because again, we're talking about wealth. See, when we talk about just income, then we talk about getting a job and making money. But when you're talking about wealth, which is home ownership, we don't really talk about it enough. And I think that is absolutely correct. So, but we need to turn the tables. And just because your financial situation isn't the way it should be right now, that doesn't mean that for the rest of your natural born life that you're
Right.
going to always be struggling. So we got to set the bar high. And even if our children don't get it, at least they can thrive for it, because that's what happens rather when people become home ownership. They When they own homes, rather, they become wealthy, and that's how they can utilize their wealth to do other things as well.
Let me go ahead and jump back in the comments. They're loading up here, and then we'll get back to the program. Sister Mashonda says, "All y'all are welcome. We love y'all too." Okay, she's talking about the present she gave you guys. And then Sister Barbara says, "Thanks, daughter." Okay, so they're talking about the gift. So that was a good thing that she did. We really appreciate that. As we go ahead and move on to the next point here, number 14 says personal identity. Now, this, I'm going to break this down to two: the media, and I would say the police force. They don't teach us the importance of our personal identity simply because, number one, they want us to feel low and inadequate. And number two, the media always makes it seem like, we're thugs, we're criminals. All we want to do is have babies out of wedlock. All we want to do is go to prison. So when you teach a group of people that this is all they're good for, this is all they know, sometimes we start to act those things out because we're looking everywhere and saying, okay, well, they're saying this about us. It must be true. Everywhere I look, left, right, up, and down, this is all we're, been told that we are, so it must be true. And then the other point I want to flip before I pass it on is, I'm talking about our ancestors. You can go down the books, W.E.B. Du Bois, Garvey, X, all these guys. They were powerful brothers and sisters that came before us. If they don't teach us where we come from, then we're more successful, or what you say, susceptible to becoming fools and imbeciles, basically.
Yeah, that's really true. The personal identity, they didn't teach us enough about, that. And I would say they will be more or less those people that were in our family, because the people you mentioned, they did teach us about personal identity. They taught us that through struggles, who we were was important. They taught us to love ourselves. They taught us the importance of being an individual, but yet having a collective mindset. So they did teach us, but it's like The school system, they're not going to teach us.
Right.
The law enforcement, they're not. It's not their responsibility. But our family members, they didn't even teach us the importance of our
Mm.
identity. And this is why a lot of us are looking for love. We're looking for love everywhere. Well, we really are, Chaz. And you know we are. That's why you laugh, and you know we are. We're looking for love in all the wrong places, you see. This is why
Right.
we go to these different clubs and bars, and it's nothing wrong with having, well, it's nothing
You
wrong with
can't,
having
bro.
fun. Well, there's nothing wrong with having fun every now and then, but smoking dope and all, it does something. It does something to our inner selves. It makes us feel a certain way. See, we can't
Right.
accept who we are, so we
Right.
run to religion, and all that stuff. It pumps us up and it tells us we're somebody that we're not. It
So
gives us a
bad.
fictitious person, you see, and so
So
we want to be that person as opposed to accepting our personal identity, who we are, loving who we are, knowing that we have issues, and every day sometimes is a challenge. We try to do better on a day-to-day basis, accepting the fact that we are who we are, where we are, but we got to have something to beef up who we are. We got to have all these accolades. We got to have people telling us how beautiful we are. We got to have people telling us how fine we dress. So it's like this personal identity. If we don't know who we are, and many of us still don't, and I'm talking about adults, we don't even know who we are. So they didn't teach us enough about it, and we're not trying to find out who we are individually. So we're up the river, Chaz. We're really up the river.
And I'm gonna break that down in two more times before I get to this quote that I got on the screen here. This is why a lot of people are seeing in our books, and especially in the educational system, they're saying, why is all the black information getting scrubbed from the internet, or why is it getting hidden? This is why now a lot of these people in the Hebrew Israelite camp, they're talking about they're from the 12 tribes of Israel. They're looking, like you said, they're looking to latch on to something. And to those brothers, I would like to ask them who said that they are from these tribes, how can you prove that? Because I had got caught up in that stuff, but I don't know if they're taking these DNA tests, but a lot of them are saying they're from the tribe of Reuben and Judah and all this stuff. So I would like to figure out, how do you know that? And now to this thing on the screen I got from Google, it says, I like to leave my fellow African Americans with a message. In a political era where our history and literature are under constant threat, we must claim our culture with pride. That's absolutely, like I just told you, brother. Our culture is under constant attack. They're trying to scrub left, right, and center. TikTok, YouTube, all these avenues. It does, and I know some will say, well, why did they always talk like people are out to get them? This is true. They are out to make blacks look like nothing. They are out to scrub our identity, but it's up to us to find this information out through books, through research, however you can, before they scrub this stuff off the internet, because I do believe that's what's going on as well.
And I want to just keep this thing alive a little bit longer, because I know we'll probably get done with all of our little notes, but I want to keep this alive, this part, because Chaz, when you talk about personal identity, that's a big word. Now to us it's small, but it's really big, because many of us are walking around at these old ages and we don't even know who we are. And that's sad. And you talk about the Hebrew Israelites, and at least they're trying. Now
Yeah.
they may not be right, but they're grasping, they're reaching, they're lunging, they're lurking, trying to find out who they are, as opposed to some of us, we don't care who we are. And so
Right.
we become the people that the other people have made us. And we never look at consciousness. We never look at how we think. We never look at what made us be the people that we are. So we don't talk about, internal issues. We don't talk about what makes you you, what makes a person a person. See, these are the deep-seated issues that no one can help you with but you. You can go anywhere in the world and they can talk to you about all of these other things, but nobody can tell you your personal identity. You have to find that out yourself. And that's one of the problems that I think they didn't teach us enough about.
We can jump back into the comments real quick. We got a couple more that piled in. Sister Barbara says, some families are deprived of the opportunity to lead, etc., due to having to work for pennies from cotton fields, etc. So passing on positivity wasn't available. That's absolutely true. When you out in these fields, they were picking this cotton, they were sore, backs hurting, shoulders and stuff throbbing. So that is true. When you don't have the time to actually sit down and teach these people because you're constantly working, when the time you come home, you're exhausted and tired. So she's absolutely right that some families were deprived of that opportunity to learn.
Yeah, yeah, I want to add to that, Chaz. I don't want to take away from that because that's definitely true. But sometimes, Chaz, if we look deep into this comment that the sister made, some families were deprived of the opportunity to read and learn, is what she's saying. And I get that. Having to work for pennies in cotton fields, and they work. And this is another thing I maybe want to do a broadcast with you about. And I love Malcolm X and the teachings, but sometimes we look at the cotton field as that's all our ancestors did. Now I'm talking about doing slavery. During slavery, our ancestors weren't just as they call house ends and field ends. They did a range of other work. They did all kinds of so-called not factory, but they did a lot of industrial work. They did a lot of things that they were away from this house. They came home, of course, but we always think that slavery was just about picking cotton, and it wasn't. There was a great deal of it. But to this point here, Chaz, I learned that even though people didn't have money, I learned they had a hard ethic. I learned that they had an ability to keep doing what they were doing, even though they didn't want to do it. So sometimes we can look at what people don't do, and we can learn from that, or what they don't have. Just because they couldn't read, that doesn't mean that we couldn't look at them and learn, even though they may not have given it to their children, but their life was an example, you see. Now I'm getting deep in this now. Their lives were examples, and if you just look at their lives, when they left this earth, you can say, even though we were having a tough time, they must have taught us something. They must have taught us something.
And like you just said, and I'll piggyback real quick, that work ethic, that's something that is overlooked, especially now in the society. A lot of people don't want to work. They want to sit back and do nothing. But like you said, a lot of those ancestors and people of the past, they had a tough work ethic. You couldn't beat that out of them, even though, like you said, they were doing other things and they got whipped and stuff out in those fields. It still shows that how tough of a mentality that they had to simply have a hard work ethic, because it's easy to just not care and just, go call it quits. And then she also says a correction, passing on instruction for building our own futures. Okay, we know what you meant. As we go ahead and move on to number 15 here, how to negotiate. Now, I'll put this was a direct economic protest against racial discrimination in hiring. Now, I'm referring to this picture right here I found, in 1960. It says here, do not buy where you will not be hired. This is in North Carolina. So basically, back in the 1960s, there was people who were being discriminated against because these were blacks. They wanted to work, but these white, not all, but some of these white European men and women were not allowing these brothers and sisters to work. So they said, to offset that or to get back at them, we're just not going to buy. Now, I wish that this would be prevalent to today's society, because a lot of these places we love to shop at, but we probably can't work there because of race and other issues. But these were some strong brothers in the 60s who pushed this envelope. This is how you negotiate. You okay? If you're going to let me work where you guys will work, okay, we'll stop doing this. But these brothers right here meant business on this picture.
Yeah, see, you giving the positive, but as you look at it, it says what they didn't teach us enough about. And then the word is how to negotiate. To negotiate is basically to reach an agreement. And a lot of times we don't negotiate because we don't know how to reach an agreement. In other words, if you and I have a problem and we
Right.
need to fix it, instead of us talking about it, you give me your part, I give you my part, and we go back and forth. At the end of the day, we say, okay, let's negotiate. You don't get what you want, I don't get what I want, but we come to some kind of medium where whatever we're doing is going to move further. See, we don't do that. See, when we don't negotiate, what we do is we get angry. We don't want to speak to people.
Right.
We don't want to be around these people. We want to do something bodily bad to these people if they have some bodily harm done to them, or we hear something happen to them. We rejoice because we're angry because we didn't have our way. See, negotiation is something that I'm still learning, and I have a long way to go. But in other words, I can't always have my way. That's basically what that means. Negotiating means you're going to have to give in, basically. And a
Right.
lot of us aren't like that, Chaz. If we can't have our way, we're going to throw a conniption fit. We're going to be apoplectic, because we're like little children. But this is what they didn't teach us enough about. You're not going to always have your way. Learn how to meet people sometimes halfway, and sometimes you might meet them a little bit more than halfway. But if the end result is helping the majority of the people, then we should be able to sit down and negotiate like these brothers, as we see here. They're negotiating. They're saying, do not buy where you will not be hired. See, they're working
That's
this thing out.
negotiation.
That's negotiation. But many of us, we were not taught enough how to negotiate. Negotiation is not always having everything your way, you see. And so I
Right.
think we need to really look at that. And that's an important point that you just put on the screen, how to negotiate.
And I'll say this real quick before we move on to the next point. We got to learn how to be civil when we negotiate. There's nothing wrong with me and you sitting down saying, you know what, brother, I don't agree with this, or your prices are too high, or vice versa. We like to negotiate, and it turns into chaos. Fights break out. People start throwing bottles and stuff at each other. We used to have a civilized civilization to where we could negotiate without, violence and cussing and all this stuff going on. But now, whenever we negotiate, it can be something really, really frivolous and small. We take it on
Well,
to the next
well,
level.
yeah, because my thing is this now. This gonna hit home to you. We gonna hit real close home to you.
Okay.
Those of our guests who know us, the audience that know us, they know we like football, all right? They know you like the Steelers. They know I like the Ravens. We're
Okay.
going to negotiate paying that YouTube ticket. Now, no, I knew that was going to get you. We're going to
Come on,
negotiate.
man.
We're going to negotiate paying that NFL ticket. I'm not going to pay that whole thing. So you're going to
Right.
have to pay your part. I'll pay my part. That's what. Now that's a beautiful illustration of negotiation. And everybody watching this, check in with us in a few months to see which one of us negotiated, which one of us didn't.
Yeah, we got it. We've been working on that behind the scenes. We've been talking about how we're gonna get it, what we're gonna be doing, and that kind of thing. But I'm looking forward to that day whenever our teams play. As we go into the next one here, number 16 says how important time is. Now, I put the education system did do a good job at teaching this. For number one, during slavery, time was weaponized as a tool of extraction rather than taught as a personal value. And when people don't value your time, they constantly waste it. They do things to irritate you, or they're constantly not taking your time as being important. So I think that falls back on the education system, because if they said, for example, working should only be, hypothetically, I'm just using this for example, 4 hours. You give a brother or a sister enough time to work a little bit, and then they could come home and still be energized. But when you're making people work 8, 9, 10, 12 hours, I don't think that that's showing an importance of time, because you're draining those people of so much energy. By the time they come home, they don't have energy to do anything else. So that's why I think that was important. Go ahead. I
You,
see you
you
got
know,
something to say.
yeah, because Chaz, here's the thing. They didn't teach us enough about the importance of time. When I grew up, and I know people don't like to hear older people say that because we say it all the time and we always start running our mouths about back in the day, but it's still today. People don't sit down and tell you to value your time. In other words, a lot of people didn't say, be careful with your time. And see, my examples weren't always people that were doing good things with their time, like trying to start a business, trying to help people, visiting people at the hospital. I saw people standing around on the corner, because I was one of them, drinking a 40 ounce, you know, trying to get, warm in the snow, trying to get something to do, running around trying to find, little girls. Just we were doing all kinds of things, and it's like that's a part of life. But the valuing time, Chaz, even today, we don't talk enough about time is of the essence. And we always say this: you only go around once, regardless of how you feel. You go around every day. But when you talk about time, nobody is demonstrating to us the importance of time. And we always say this too. When we get older, we'll say, man, time sure did fly. Well, the question is, what did you do with your time?
Mm.
What did I do with my time? And
Yeah.
we did nothing with our time. That's why we looked up and we said, oh, man, it seemed like just yesterday. But if we had been doing things, we would have said, hold on for a second. I never hear people say, man, time is gone so slow, because they're doing so much. It's always the opposite. Man, time sure does fly, because you're not doing anything. That's why it's flying.
I gotta get back to the comments now. This brother, I mean this sister, is jokingly putting our business out here. She would, y'all aged me, so there's no negotiation this time. Okay, sister. We apologize that she's blasting us like this, but we
Hey,
gonna
get
work
that
on it.
get that comment off this. Get that comment off the screen, Chaz. Keep going. Keep going.
Sister Elizabeth, she looks like a new viewer. We appreciate her. She says, "Yep, absolutely agree." Okay,
Yeah,
so she's agreeing with our
yeah,
talk.
she's a beautiful sister, and she loves just life, and I know Sister Liz, and my thing is, it's true about time, man. We gotta really stop, and that's all of us. We gotta just stop, and a lot of us are doing nothing, but we think we're doing something. We're just running, 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 running. But when you think about it, what we're accomplishing is really nothing. So let's
Mm,
all look at this and learn to say they didn't teach us enough about the value of time. So let's teach ourselves. Let's start doing things constructive. Let's start doing things that's going to help us with our psyche. And we're listen, when you do a lot in this life and it's time for you to leave, you're going to have a smile on your face when it's time for you to get out of here. When it's time for you to check out, you're going to think, wow, I really accomplished a lot with my time. But if you didn't, you're going to be angry. You're going to be scared. You ain't going to want to, you're going to close the curtains. You ain't going to want to speak to no one because you know that you wasted that time running around doing nothing. So let's stop, y'all, all of us, and look at our own lives and say, am I doing enough with my time? Am I valuing my time? If we aren't, let's do a better job, all of us, please, because we're all involved in this. Let's all do a better job with this time situation.
Let me ask you this real quick. It does seem like now time has sped up. Now I know you just went on a rant. You said that we're not doing a lot with our time. We're wasting it. We're
Yeah,
doing
yeah,
nothing.
yeah.
But I do think if you look, and I hate using this, but if you look at like in 2003, 2004, time seemed pretty average. It seemed like it took a long time. But you must agree, it does seem like time has sped up, and I think a lot of us are working. A lot of us are doing these things, but compared to like 2004, brother, why do you think now it seems like time is so much faster than it was in '04?
I think when you look at life, we all say that statement. That's a general statement because when you're young and you get old, when you reflect, it does seem like time has sped up because you can remember, like I can remember when I was a young boy, man, and it seemed like only yesterday. So if you ask me, did time fly by? I'm going to say yes. But there's a part of me that says time sped up because I didn't do a lot. Running around, like I say, smoking dope. I don't do that anymore. Trying to be cool. And this is a part of life too, Chaz. All what I'm saying is a part of life. We all go through this. But
Right.
sometimes when we think about it and critique our own lives, we will have to say that we didn't value time. That's what I'm saying. We didn't look at the importance of time. And so
Okay.
that's why you're right in that time does seem like to all of us, because I'm not going to sit here and lie. If you ask me, I would say, yes, it does seem like time flies,
Yeah.
especially when you look back on yesterday. But
Mhm.
some of that, Chaz, some of that, it flew by because we didn't do anything with it. That's all I'm saying.
Okay. Number 17, he says, how to communicate during disagreements. Now, they didn't teach us. I'm going to say they. I'm talking about the media as well. They didn't teach us this, excuse me, because they normally, us blacks, like I said earlier, through TV shows and movies, we've been being loud, irrational, doing violent acts and all these things. So when we don't learn how to communicate during disagreements, 9 times out of time, that's how we react. We start to fighting, we start cussing, we start doing all these things that causes a lot of drama and chaos. So I would tie that into the media. The media, didn't do a good job at showing enough good film and videos and footage of us being civil, because for the most part, when I look at blacks as a whole, they got us on TV, like you said, acting silly, acting a fool, and now it seems like we've adapted that philosophy.
Yeah, Chaz, as I think about my life again, all I heard growing up was arguing. I mean, I heard some good things, but for the most part, I saw fights, I saw arguments, I saw disagreements, and no one taught me how to communicate. It was always if I didn't get my way or someone dissed me, then it was always I used to curse like a sailor. I would curse them out, and this is what all of my friends and I did. This was how we lived. So no one taught us how to communicate during disagreements. And the ironic thing is this: many of us are religious. And I don't care whether a person is a Christian. I don't care whether a person is a Muslim. I don't care whether a person is a Hindu. I don't care whether a person is an atheist. I don't care whether a person is a Jew. I don't care what a person believes. In my heart, I know that all those books, even the atheists, I know all those books, they have some things in those books to teach us how to communicate. I don't know all the verses.
Right.
But I know that there are verses in all of those so-called holy books that teach us how to communicate. And I think even in the Bible, let nothing filthy come out of your mouth and all this. Let no corrupt communication. It's the Christians, it's the Muslims, it's the atheists, it's the Jews who have mouths that are so filthy, man. But see, we don't want to have these discussions. It's the preachers, it's the imams behind closed doors. Sure, in the building, everything is going to be, oh, holy is thou. But when they get in an argument or disagreement, you son of a blip, you MFer, you GDMF and stuff. This is why I know, Chazz, that they didn't teach us enough about that, and a lot of it is on us. So we're not faulting them,
Right.
because it all comes from our heart. But see, a lot of us don't want to be, we don't want to be honest. That's why I like doing broadcasts like this, because we get a chance to be honest, okay? We don't have to sugarcoat anything. Nobody's paying us to say anything. We don't have parishioners who we got to make feel good. We are telling the unadulterated truth, and most of your viewers out there, they know that we're telling the truth, because a lot of us have some of the filthiest mouths. All it takes is for us to be angry. Once we get angry and pull that chain, you're going to hear something that you have never heard before. But that following Sunday, this is how we are, Chazz, and we're hypocrites, and we got to stop that. Now, that was my little rant, but we got to stop that.
We jump back into the comments real quick. We got a couple more. Sister Elizabeth says, overtalk each other over who can get the loudest. Yeah, and that's absolutely right. When we have these disagreements, we don't know how to let one person talk, then I talk. It's just like she said, who can out-talk who, and who can basically outperform who to see, oh, did you see Brother Jai? He told Chazz off in a good way, and it's trying to see who gets the best of who. And
yeah, she's right. She's talking to me too, you see, and this is another thing I like about this broadcast. We are not beyond reproach, and I'm working on that now. Loudness doesn't mean you're right. But see, when I grew up, that's what we thought. The loudest person always won the argument. And this is how ignorant I was. This is how fatuous, and this is how vacuous my mind was. I thought the person that spoke the loudest won. So when I would argue with people, I'd raise that temperature to 100 degrees, because I thought that if I could out-scream or shout a man, that I was winning. But if you investigate what I was saying, it was foolish, it was nonsensical. And so now I'm trying to understand that now I can talk to people, and I can talk like this now. But she's right. We try to overtalk each other and see who can get the loudest. And it shows our ignorance. It really does. And I think, a lot of us don't want to face that, Chazz.
And I think before I move on to the next comment, I see that a lot on TV now. It seems like a lot of these broadcasting shows, it seems like that's what they're doing now. Two guys or two women, they so hollering so loud, and like you said, they just trying to see who can out yell the other one.
But Chazz, hold on. Before you go to the other comment, this is a good discussion. Before you go to another comment, I'm thinking, as I look back, when I grew up, the people that I heard talk loud, the loudest, these were people that I lived with, man. It was my mother. It was my father. It was my sisters. It was my cousins, rather. It was my friends. It was some of my teachers. It was my environment, man. So I'm a product of my environment. So when I got angry, I did the same thing, because I thought that was the normal thing to do. Went to the Marine Corps, and man, I was one of the loudest guys in the world, because I thought that's what it was about, you see. But but I'm telling you, Chazz, people don't want to be honest, and this is why I don't like hypocrites, because a hypocrite will hide behind a phone and they'll act like they don't talk loud. But all you have to do is, as I told you earlier, make them angry, pull that string, and you will be called everything in the book. And I
Yeah.
know that's how people are. But behind closed doors, oh, no, 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 I don't talk like that, except for on certain days. Come on, man.
Brother Ray fires it here. He says, "Hey, good people, we appreciate him." He also says, "You got to pick your fights." Yeah, you got to learn. Some fights don't always have to be fought. We got to learn how to say this one needs to be fought. I'm gonna sit this one out. No, everything we see, we want to fight, and he's right about that. We got to learn how to pick and when to ignore. He says, "Lions with no teeth roar the loudest." And you know, brother Ja, you said this a few minutes ago. There's this saying now. They say that the loudest person in the room is normally the weakest in the room. That's what these young cats are saying now in this generation. Uh,
And look at this. Look at this, Chaz. We can argue all we want, but we don't have to act foolish, is what I'm saying. See, they didn't teach us enough about that. I haven't seen that demonstrated. Even in my life today, I look at people's relationships and I see how it happens, and it's not civil. I mean, these are people who claim to like each other. Boyfriends, girlfriends, husbands and wives, family members. They claim to have a relationship. But as soon as something goes wrong, I've heard mothers talk to their daughters. Ooh, if you could just hear some of the things they've said, and even some of the kids talk to their parents this way. So they didn't teach us enough, man, about how to communicate. And that's something we have to really work on, all of us.
Sister Elizabeth says, yes, she's agreeing with us once again. And then Brother Ray fires in here. He says, Hotep son God. We appreciate him for logging in. But I have found this picture on Google, and this is just my own input. But this brother seems surprised because he was hit by this woman with some loud, boisterous talk. And at first, he was just calm and mellow, minding his own business. But when she snuck up on him and surprised him with that loud, boisterous talk, that's what threw him off. You see, he's dazed, he's confused, he doesn't know what's going on, and she's giving it back to him, saying, "You know what you did," and he's stunned. You know, this is what happens a lot behind the scenes, like you said, at home in the African American community. Now, if it were up to me, it would be two people just conversating like this and just, you know, talking about what we disagree on. But these two here, it doesn't look like it's going to end well with these two. As we go ahead and move on to the next point here. Number 18 says how to organize a community. The school systems, I'm going at once again, they withheld education and organized the skills from blacks to prevent collective power and maintain racial inequality. Now, they did that once again because they knew if we learned how to have our own communities, we wouldn't rely on them as much as we do now. Always going to the stores to buy, always relying on them, all their policies, instead of if we have our own, we don't have to keep relying on them, and we don't have to keep, you know, running to their stores and malls and stuff like that if we had our own, if they taught us correctly.
Yeah, it says they didn't teach us enough about, and I'm talking about. I noticed today's theme. You know, you're dealing with a lot of the media and outward entities, and it's true. But I'm dealing with a lot of the personal ones, like our family members and things of that sort. We've been complaining about our communities for the longest, but the key word or the operative word in this is organize. We don't know how to put things together. Now we see what's going on in our
Right.
communities, but we don't know how to put it together. That's what organize means. You actually put things together so that they run smoothly. And you know, we complain more about them, but we don't like to organize. We're the number one complainers, and I'm the biggest complainer in the world, and we should, because we have a lot to complain about. But my question is, when are we going to start organizing? And that's, you know, something that we really should take a look at. We look at all the things that's going on in our communities, and instead of us trying to organize, we just sit around and complain about them because everyone has something to say, but no one wants to do anything about it. And that's one of the downfalls that they didn't teach us enough about. I believe Kwame Ture, he always talked about his former name, Stokely Carmichael. He always talked about we have to organize. That was his main mantra. We must organize. And he's no longer with us, but he always talked about the importance of organizing. And he was right, man. Even to this day, he's right. We don't know how to organize because a lot of us don't want to organize. We just want to gripe and complain.
And it normally gets messy. You know, we start off organize it, but normally when we have different opinions, people come up It starts off calm, but it always seems like there's fighting that breaks out, there's bickering, and especially in the blacks, we just always seem to attract violence and to attract fights for some reason. Brother Ray says he was talking to Sister Barbara, okay, about the sun god. Okay, no problem, bro. Um, but yeah, it just seems like we always attract these fights and this violence, and this is why we'll never come together. And in fact, a lot of people behind the scenes know this, and I know, like you said, you touching on one side, I'm touching on the other. These people behind the scenes know this. This is why they uh, create some of these negative plots and plans against us because they know how we'll respond. Number 19 says how to listen to others. I'll let you take that one and I'll piggyback off of it.
Yeah, they didn't teach us enough about the importance of listening. Listening is not just being quiet. Listening is doing something about what people are telling us. Not always trying to run our mouths when somebody's talking and getting other thoughts so we can come back and seem like we're much more, savvy than the next person. See, that's one of our main problems right there is we need to start teaching others and our children how to truly listen. Because sometimes when we listen, people make good points. We just don't want to say, you know what? That was a good point. And I once again, I think about all these organizations that we have. And the reason why I don't really subscribe to them is because it's like in word, those words sound good. But in the reality, we're not doing what we say we're doing. So this is why hypocrisy, to me, it's always been this way. But I would say it's at an all-time high today. Because a lot of us, we front, or back in the day, when I was growing up, we called them jive turkeys. It's a it's a lot of jive turkeys out here, Chazz.
Yeah.
And we hide behind the Quran, we hide behind the Bible, we hide behind all of these books that make us think we're doing something, and we're really not. We're fooling ourselves. So we got to put these books down and look at our hearts and say, what am I really doing? We're playing with ourselves, but we've been doing it for so long. Now we're stuck on stupid, but we don't listen to other people. And if you don't believe me, all you got to do is look at two people have a conversation, and before one gets done talking, the other one's got something to say. They're not listening, man.
Yeah. And excuse me, like on this photo I found on the internet, this sister is trying to tell this brother something, and he's just totally zoned out. He's got his ears covered. Now that is totally disrespectful. He could have at least, listened to what she's got to say, but he had enough and he's full. And we may not be doing this verbally, but like you just said, now in this society, we're too self-absorbed and we're too full of ourselves. Like I said, we got these main character syndromes. Now, we're not doing what he's doing with our hands visibly, but in our minds, that's what we're doing. We're not interested in what the next man or woman has to say because, like I keep going back to, we're so caught up in this main character syndrome that it's a crying shame.
Yeah, and you're right. We're not listening to our community. We're not listening to the points that our ancestors left behind. We got our hands over our head. Now we're acting like we're listening, but we're really not. We're not listening to these books that we read. We're not listening to these songs that we hear, other than those nonsensical songs. So what I'm saying is this is a good image to show that this brother, he's basically depicting us as a community and as a people. We're not listening to anyone, and this is why we're having the problems that we're having today.
We go back into the comments section. Brother Ray says, I think after they went to war on the Black Liberation Movement and destroyed that and killed off all the Black Panthers and imprisoned them, I think they put fear in black people of organizing. Yeah, I could see that. I really do think that was strategic as well, because they did say, think in their minds, okay, if we show that we can kill off these strong Black Panthers, a lot of people won't have the resistance, or they won't have the drive, or they won't have the fight in them to fight against us if we show them that we can destabilize their strong leader. So I agree with that 100%.
Yeah, and I definitely agree with it 100%. A lot of us, and I'm not talking about Brother Ray, but he's right. After the Black Panther Party and those other splinter groups, once they waged war against us, it was over with. But I want to say something, Chazz. I really want to say something now about organizing. Many of us live in a fantasy world. We really do. We don't like this kind of truth that you and I are talking about. See,
Mhm.
we want to gather together and make people think we're doing something, but we're really not. And the reason I'm saying that, and I'm included, the reason we're not, look at our youth, look at our adults, look at our young adults, look at our middle aged adults, look at our senior citizens. If we open our eyes and see these people are at war with us,
Yeah.
biological war, physical war, psychological war, emotional war. And see, we sit around and we think that we're living in a lap of luxury. But Chaz, it's a bad time right now for us. And I don't know who in their right mind could say that we are organized, like Brother Ray say. We're so afraid to do anything, man. And this is why it's important that we understand that even though they didn't teach us enough about, whether it was our parents, whether it was our relatives, our friends, or whomever, our community, we got to take a deeper dive into how do we make this world a better place. See, that's the question that we don't like to do. We talk it, but what are we doing to make it? We should be sold out, all of us, to make these communities we live in much better than they are. And we say greetings to our dear and beloved sister, Sister
Yep.
Sharon. She's a wonderful sister and she watches the broadcast, and we always appreciate her attendance.
Oh yeah. And then we got a couple more comments. Ray says we fear organizing more than we fear racism. Yeah, I agree with that as well. And then he also had a previous one. He says he's an astute listener. Okay, I appreciate that. As we go ahead and finish up here, number 20 says how to leave a legacy for those coming behind us. Now, on the parents, like I said, not all, but some parents, they didn't think that this was important. In fact, their parents didn't teach them how important it was to leave a legacy. In some cases, financially, we didn't have the wealth. So they feel like, okay, well, since I don't have this much wealth, I don't think it's important to pass down wealth as a legacy to the kids coming behind us. And then number two, I'll just say how to act civil. You know, in this society, as we all can see, people are so off the hook, they're off the chain. You can't tame them, you can't tell them anything. And it's like we as parents, some of the parents have been brought up that way, and now they don't tell their children about it because they don't think it's important. So to wrap it up in a nutshell, the parents didn't see, or they didn't think it was important to leave a legacy for those new generations coming up behind them.
And I think we have to ask the critical and the crucial question. What is a legacy? See, we use terms and we don't define them, and so that lets people say whatever they want to say. But a legacy is something that we leave behind. When
Right.
you look at our ancestors, they left us a legacy that's so grand. They really did, in spite of their situation. They left us a legacy that we can look back on and say, after all, against all odds, man, against everything that was against them, these people left us something that we can use to leave for the children that come after us. But what we did is what happens in football. We fumbled. We fumbled. We fumbled this thing, man. And I'm not talking about we as in you and I. I'm talking about us as a community. We fumbled
Right.
it now, see? And so now we don't leave them anything behind. An insurance policy is not a legacy. It may be a financial legacy, but I'm talking about something that's deeper than money. I'm talking about something that's deeper than wealth. I'm talking about something that we leave for our families, that and these kids, that they're going to be able to survive in a racist, in a hostile, in a hypocritical, in a backbiting, in a world that has gone stone crazy. See, and this is why I talk like this, because the urgency is now, Chaz. All that laid back stuff, all that stuff of progression, just waiting and just hoping, that's over with, man. These people have got their foots up by you know what right now in
Yeah.
every facet. But many of us got jobs, we got homes, we have vehicles, and we got apartments, we got clothes, we have food. And so we put our hands behind our head and say, life is sure good. So that shows that we are not radical. And it shows that they didn't teach us enough about how our ancestors, they paved the way for us to do better than we've done. And I'm saying, man, when you look at all those people that left the legacy for us, we got to learn how to leave a legacy behind for those who are coming, man, because we're going to leave this earth, Chaz. And I don't know why people don't understand. We're going to leave this earth real soon.
Yeah.
So what are we going to leave behind? Nothing but what? A pair of gym shoes or something, you know, a baseball cap or something. or what are we going to leave behind?
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah. And that's something that hits home. We all got to wake up to this information because I know it's easy, like for some to say, it's easy for us to sit back behind a camera or a microphone and say it, but these are hard hitting topics that need to be talked about more frequently than what they do. The next point here says how to support one another, especially black businesses. This goes both ways. Exactly. In the COVID era, when that happened, it stripped a lot of our African American communities. These mom and pop stores, they really were hit by a lot financially. The shops closed down, but now the shops and stuff back up. And our black businesses, it's like, okay, for example, you may come to my shop, but I won't come to yours. It's what you almost call being egotistical. And sometimes the prices, some people like to say, well, I'm not going to go to yours because your prices are more. Well, like we keep mentioning, your prices may be high because you're trying to fight against Walmart. You're trying to fight and compete with CVS. You're trying to fight with Target and all these high market places, and it's hard to. So we have to support the black businesses because they don't have that much help. And I'm going to say this before I pass it on. We got to make sure that they're fair. Sometimes, like we keep showing time and time again, not all black businesses are good. There are some people who say they're black, but they're out to get us. But we have to learn how to say, I support you, you support me. That's how community grows, and then that's how things start to prosper instead of it being so lopsided.
Some of us were taught as children that we should support black businesses, and that's good. I wasn't, but that was good. When I got older, I understood the importance of supporting black businesses because they depend on us. But and like this says, this goes both ways. As many black businesses as we have, we don't have. Now listen to me. Now this is just in the little corner pocket that I live. We don't have any banks. We don't have any stores. We don't have any hospitals. We don't have anything that is going to help us. Jay-Z, as rich as he is, if he gets stabbed, he's going to go to the same hospital that you and I will probably go to, and we don't have money. In other words, it's not ours, is what I'm saying. And we have not organized, as Brother Ray said earlier, we have not organized to say, we as a people, and I'm going to say this, and I hope people don't misunderstand me, but I'm going to say it anyway. And people say we don't have the money. As much money as we put in churches, not just churches, as much money as we buy these expensive gym shoes and all these things that we buy. By now, we should have more than what we have, is all I'm saying. And I know we can't have the same amount of businesses as other people, but as much money as we put in that collection plate, as much money as we put in these stores, as much money as we put in our bellies, as much money as we put in just frivolous things, we should by now have something, Chazz. And this is what's sad about it, because it goes both ways. Some of these black businesses, you mean you can't fund the educational system by now? It didn't have to be 1 million kids. You mean to tell me you black businesses can't sit down like you and I and saying, we're going to support a school with an Afrocentric curriculum, blah, blah, blah. But that's not happening. But you want us to come and buy your chicken. You want us to come and buy your fish and your ribs and all of that. And nobody's saying this because we try to give them a pass when we see them because we're afraid of them, like Ray said. We're afraid of them. They don't have much. But if they pool their resources together because we support them, we wouldn't be in this situation, man.
We jump back into the comment section real quick. Ray says a socioeconomic support system beyond this racist system is a legacy. Absolutely, if we can actually pull that off, and that's a sharp comment, but it's easier said than done. We so wrapped up in this system, I think it's going to be tough for a lot of us to break free from it. And I agree with that, with this comment. He also says we all we need. Absolutely. And then he also says Black Americans can own our own communication satellites. Okay, appreciate that.
Yeah, Chaz, and one of the things is, and this is what I'm tired of. Other people do what we say that we should do. And yes, they have more resources. But you take some of these little schools, these Catholic schools, or these people that live in communities or they support their race, they put their money behind. They don't put all their money, but they all pool in and put their money behind these kids. That's just one example. We don't do that, Chaz. And I'm telling you, a lot of us have fooled ourselves into thinking that this is more but it's not, it's less. If we looked at the political climate right now and the social indicators right now of what's going on now, it would make a brass monkey want to cry. But
Mm.
most of us don't see it that way because we see us having food, we see us having clothes, we see us having apartments, we see us having houses, we see us having jobs. And it's like, where is the urgency, man? Where
Yeah.
is the urgency?
Number 22, how to break bad habits. Now, I would say our parents, some of them, didn't teach us how to break bad habits because it's a badge of honor now. We're like, for example, we see some of our old friends or old family members at a gas station, and they say, "Bro, you still drinking? I ain't gonna never change." You know, these are bad habits that we refuse to break. We take pride in these habits. We love them. We cherish them. We should change, but we don't like to break these habits because for some reason, this is some kind of identity that we've built within ourselves, and that's not good. And I would say that. What's your opinion on this one?
We have become indefatigable. So what does that mean, Jahi? Indefatigable.
Okay.
Indefatigable means that you do something and you never get tired of it. Well, this is the habits that we have been doing these habits, some of us, for so many years. And here's what I'm going to say, and I said this at a setting this past weekend. We don't want to face this, Chaz, and I'm going to say it. And once again, it's only because of my love for my people. I'm going to say this: a lot of us have psychological problems, Chaz. We have psychological problems that haven't been dealt with, Chaz. And we're living like this, and we don't see it because we have normalized these psychological issues. We have mental issues, many of us. You
Mm.
know, we're taking Prozac. Some of us are on Prozac and all these other medicines. But we need some of these things. Now, I don't. Now, I'm not subscribing this to people so they can just get out of their minds because sometimes they give you those people that give it to you. They give it to you for other reasons. So let's not get caught up into that. But a lot of us have issues and we don't want to face with. Listen, you talking to me ain't gonna help me if I have a mental issue. Me talking to you ain't gonna help you. And all these armchair psychologists who always come up, they always come up with their solution. I wouldn't listen to them anyway. But we have
Okay.
a lot of mental issues that we've been dealing with since slavery, and we haven't been fixed, Chaz. And
Well said. We got one more comment we're going to read before we wrap up here. Ray says, when black people hire black people with gainful employment. Um, I'm confused
no,
here.
he's saying that's a positive thing, man. That's a gain. That's something positive. When black people hire black people, yeah, we should. And this is what it's going to take. When you go into these Chinese restaurants, they hire all Chinese people, and that's their prerogative. But with us, we want to open the door to everybody because we've bought into this multicultural bull crap. We've
Yeah.
brought into all of this stuff that. And I always say this, you can talk all that multicultural stuff you want, but when these people go to the bank, when these people that own these businesses, your name ain't on that bank account. So it's
Yeah.
not multicultural.
Yeah.
You take your money, they take their money, their family is the one who benefits from this. So all this multicultural, stuff that we're saying and we're equal and all this stuff doesn't work, man. So he's saying when black people, we need to hire black people,
I
keeping the
agree.
money within our own people. And that's a
And I
beautiful statement.
And I agree. And I would just say this too. We got, and I don't know if we can, but we got to eliminate, if we can, these DEI hires and these at will, because these at will companies, it just messes things all the way up. And I hate that somebody thought of that idea of being at will, where you can get let go for any reason without it being, legit. But that's a doggone crying shame and disgrace that we have DEI and at will and all these things that really slow down black people. But tonight, this was a powerful broadcast. We talked a lot about what they didn't teach us. They could be the school system. They could be our parents. They could be the media that we see on TV. They could mean a variety of things. And I think, in a nutshell, if I could sum all of this up, they didn't teach us these things because, number one, they want us to always be looked at as low or inadequate or slow. And number two, they didn't teach us these things because when you look at it from an economic perspective, these businesses, they always want us spending with them, buying their products, having us run to them. Well, that way, if we don't have our own and we don't own anything, we'll always have money in their pockets, and they will never ever, if we have our own stores, they'll never really shop at ours. And that's what I could sum this up, who they are. Like I said, the school system, sometimes it's some of the parenting, And last but not least, some of these colleges, they're teaching us to look and feel this way about ourselves because they always want us looking down upon ourselves and spending with them.
Yeah, Chaz, and I want to take it a little bit interpersonal now because, again, I get what you're saying and I agree with it. But I want to get to us. See, I don't know where we lost this, but a lot of us don't want to be accountable. We like to blame, and we should blame those who are at fault, but we never like to blame ourselves. And that's why we're going to always be in this rut. And this is why we're in this rut now.
Yeah.
So all that crap that we have told about cultural diversity, cultural pluralism, multicultural, all these words, cultural inclusion, cross-culturalism, interculturalism, ethnic diversity, pluralism. Those are con words to get us to give people what we shouldn't be giving them. And see, nobody wants to sit down in a town hall meeting and talk like this and tell a group of people, white and black, that stuff does not benefit us. We weren't taught enough about that. But you get these people who are so scared when they get on our broadcast and other places, they're loud, you see, like we talked about earlier. But when you get a chance to say this, they're not gonna say that, man. They're not gonna say that because they're afraid and they don't realize that you're going to die anyway.
Yeah.
But yet we want to save face. We want people to like us. And this is why I love people that were back in the day, Fannie Lou Hamer, all the sisters that came, these Ida B. Wells. They seemed like they didn't care. And it was tough, man. It was tough for them, man.
Yeah.
But they still went out and talked about how lynching was wrong. I mean, they ran her out of town, Ida B. Wells. This lady was so deep, man, that she kept writing, man. All these sisters and brothers did this. But today we hide behind a cell phone. We hide behind our religion. We hide behind, if we don't have religion, we hide behind our atheism. We hide behind our spirituality.
Yeah.
We hide behind all of those words that I should have put in with all these other words I said to make people think we're really doing something. But I'm going to say this and I'm going to close because I can't say the word, but I'm going to say what I need to say and you figure it out because you know what it is. And all I can say is the last two letters start with IT. So I'm saying we ain't, and then there it is right there. That's what it is. Now, and I know that sounds rough. I know that sounds negative. I know it sounds hard, but somebody's got to tell the truth, Chaz. I'm tired of people sugarcoating this thing. I need people like Brother Ray and Sister Elizabeth who gonna just shoot and grab the throat, grab the jugular, because that's what, man, all that soft-spoken stuff now, we're in a rut because of people like us who sit around and don't get to the heart of the matter. And the heart of the matter is we have been in this country for almost 500 years. These people still got their foot up on you-know-what. There's no difference with our ancestors and us other than the fact that they work for white people. We work for white people. They had chains on their wrists and their feet. We got chains on our minds. So it's the same thing. So once again, man, I'm telling you, it's always a honor to do this broadcast with you. We do have a few announcements to make. I'll let you make the announcement for next week, but I want to say on September the 12th, we're having a symposium, Healing Through Truth. It's at Greater Corinth Baptist Church, 500 South New Brownsville Street. We're expecting at least 100 people. It's free. We're talking about abuse and the effects of abuse. We have therapists there. We have counselors there. We have resource tables there. We have abuse organizations that's going to be there. We have abuse survivors that's going to be there. This is where we can heal, man. And, it's not a big thing, but I'm a part of putting it together because I think now it's time for us to really deal with those issues that we struggle with. And that abuse is one, man. That abuse is really a bad thing. And we need to start supporting each other because we all need to realize, Chaz, that if we can't help us get right, nobody else is.
Yeah.
And this is why most of us are psychologically screwed up. And yet a lot of us don't want to say it because we want to run to the TV, run to the cell phone, run to all this. We are a sick people, Chaz.
Yeah. I was going to say, like you gave me the floor a few seconds ago, the announcement was we're going to have a brother. His name is Travis. He's a historian. We're trying to aim to get him on next week. He's a brother that you've been talking to. You say he's a deep, powerful brother. He's got a lot of facts. He's got a lot of knowledge. And he's got a lot of names and dates that he's going to be hitting us with. So we advise you guys, we're hoping to get him on, like you said. We talked before the broadcast. We're aiming for next week. But if it's not next week, it'll be the following. But you said every time you talk to this brother, he's just a powerful guy, isn't he?
Yeah. He hemmed me up. I was at a function this past weekend, and he hemmed me up and said, "Hey, I want to come on the show." And I said, "Well, actually, I asked him to come on the show, but then when I gave him the invitation, he said he would love to come on. He wants to set the record straight. He wants to set the record straight about history, why we need history, the importance of history. So I can't wait to hear this brother come on, man, because I know on the last guest I didn't say too much, but on this one I'm gonna have to interject because he's so lively, man. He's got so much to say, and I do want to acknowledge my beautiful niece, Dee Dee, who says hello, everyone. We say hello to her. You better get on time. You better come here on time next week because we're finna go off, Dee Dee, and I'm dealing with you now in front of everybody. So don't call me and talk crazy to me. This broadcast can be seen every Wednesday at 6 o'clock Central Standard Time. It's 7 o'clock in the Midwest where she is. It's at 7 o'clock. So hopefully people can tune in to us and watch it because we always have positive information. I just hope people take it to heart. What they didn't teach us enough about, now it's up to us to learn and do better because this time that we're living in, it's rough, Chazz. It's real rough.
It is. My final comments, like I said, we appreciate all the viewers, Sister Dee Dee, Sister Mashonda, Ray, Sister Barbara, everybody who did tune in with us. And we just truly appreciate it because you guys could have been anywhere doing some of anything, and you guys chose to listen to us. If you didn't get a chance to watch it live, please watch it on the playback. And like we said, next week, we're looking to have Brother Travis on the show. And that's all we have for tonight. And we hope to see you guys again next week. Take care, everybody.